Alrik, congratulations for your sci-fi film, The Alternate.
Oh, thank you, man.
But more importantly, hey, congratulations for showcasing it at this year's Dances with Films Festival. I mean, that's what how proud of you that it was being showcased there.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, it was it's the world premiere of the movie, so it was a big deal. And you always try to figure out like what the best premiere is for a film. And when we got into dances, I did a little research and I talked to some filmmaker friends, and like everybody was like, oh man, like not only is it a great festival, but like they really treat you well at the festival. And that couldn't be more true. Like I went for the weekend and had such a great time, saw some awesome films, like met a lot of amazing filmmakers. And then the screening was done really well. And we had actually a pretty good audience there, which, I mean, I'm sure you've been to lots of film festivals where that's not the case. And so like, for them to be able to pack the house, like, during the pandemic, get like over a quarter full of a 400 seat theater, it's like, okay, like this is really good.
So it sounds like you had a great time, especially a physical presence to watch your film rather than, like an online screener that a lot of people are expecting during this time.
Right. Yeah, totally. And I mean, we got a lot of the cast and crew to come out, and some of the, executive producers and investors came. And so, we had a big group of people. And then the film that we played with was a short film. They also got a lot of people out. So it was like, we got a good group for both films. And then the film festival fans came as well. And yeah, it was just a nice group of people.
So, Ulrich, let's start off with the easy question. Where did the original idea came from?
So, I've been making short films for a few years now, and I made a short film called Strange Thing back in 2014, and it was about a couple who discover a portal to another dimension. And in that one, it's like actually a physical dimension with like a monster, and it's sort of a very different story. And I was trying to write that movie for a long time, and I just kept on running into like budget constraints. Like, oh my gosh, like my first feature film, am I really going to be able to make a $10 million movie? Like, this is not going to happen. So I went back to like the portal and the other dimension idea of like, if you went to the other side, like, what's the scariest thing you can see that's not a monster? And then I just thought, oh, it could be yourself. And like, what if you are the monster and like your other self is the one that's causing these problems and just, being the antagonist of the movie. And so that was sort of the kernel. And then I actually started with the ending. Like, I don't want to spoil it, but like that was sort of the first thing that like kind of came to my mind. And then I wrote to get to that place.
Wow. What was it difficult to kind of like adjust and expand, from a short film? Because this is your first feature film. I mean, this is quite an undertaking by itself.
Yeah, no, totally. It was a big leap. And I mean, I've done like 6 or 7 short films, and I'd worked on features before, so I kind of knew the scope, but like, it's one thing to understand what it means and to, be a part of a team making a movie than it is to like write your own movie, be like raising the money for years, and then finally get to the moment where you can shoot it and be on set. And it's just like a whole another level of pressure. And just like for a little while, I kind of felt like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders trying to make this movie. But yeah, it was definitely challenging. But I think like in the end, with the team that we had and just like the crew and everything kind of came together to make it happen and create the movie that we were able to create.
Well, I guess the main thing that we should talk about first. I want to talk about the actors, obviously, but I want to talk about first is your portal. Was that a screensaver, or did you
Yeah.
doodle around?
Yeah, so the portal was fun. So that was like this whole thing that we had talked about a lot. The cinematographer and I is like we really he kind of pushed me. He was like, look, like let's not just do a green screen thing. Like let's make this something that's physical that we can interact with. And I don't remember, like I think that was something he always said. Like we always wanted things to be like the first movie I made. We try to do as much physical creature work as we could. And so I think having the idea of it being projected from a projector onto a screen, like even from that idea, when I wrote it, it was like, okay, like let's try to do this physical. Like I don't want to just have a green screen and like have the actors pretend around it. Like let's actually create something like from a graphic standpoint that we can project and have look good on a screen. And so we started with that idea. And then my cinematographer was like, well, in order for this to work and to like light the scene the way that we want to, and to have it actually happen, we can't just use one projector. You know, it's just not going to work. So we ended up with a dual projector system. So we had one on the front end and then one on the rear end. And we lined them up and matched them, which, you know, in my mind when we were in prep was like, oh, that'll be so easy, like no problem. But when we got to set, like it took a long time to get the images to line up and be focused and to look good together. And then like from that point, it was like, okay, let's like lock these down, strap them down so they don't move. And then we could like shoot, you know, for the day and, you know, get everything in the can. But like it ended up looking really great, I thought, to do it that way. And then, you know, when they enter in the portal and they actually interact with it, then that was done, you know, with green screen, except there was a couple shots where we just had the actor like kind of touch the screen, and then our visual effects artist would, you know, make it look like their hands were actually going through or something.
Wow, that is pretty awesome. Now, I guess with a lot of indie films, one of the biggest challenges is location, but you found what, 2 homes for something like this?
Yeah, and it was really challenging. So what luckily my producer Jeff Allard, who's, you know, produced over 20 films, like working a lot in horror and sci-fi, he had a friend who ended up being one of our executive producers who had a house. And so this all started when we did the teaser trailer to raise money for the feature. So he just let us use his house for the teaser. And he had such a great time with working with us. Like we shot like one night in his house. Like it was basically like one night in the house and then the day in his carport, like recreating the garage. And that was what the teaser trailer was. And then everyone loved it. It looked great. Like it really worked and helped us raise the money. And then as we got closer to the shoot, Tony, who owned the house, was like, yeah, you know, I think we could, like, I'd be okay if you did the whole movie there. And I was like, really? You let us shoot a whole movie in your house? And he was like, yeah, yeah. And then we came back to his carport, and my cinematographer, Jason, was like, we can't shoot in this. Like the ceiling is too low. We can't get the angles that you want. Like, we're not going to be able to make this work. And so then we went to Jeff and we went to his carport in his house and we measured it, and it was like 2 feet higher. And I was like, Jason, do you think we could do it here? And he was like, yeah, we can make it work. So then Jeff was kind enough to let us shoot in his, you know, carport for the basement scenes. And our production designer, Rob Ryuta, he built 2 different sets in that basement. So he built one that was like, we built the walls, built like the fake stairs, built everything. And then that was like the basement, like the cruddy basement. And then after we did that, he like basically took like all the time that we were shooting at the house. It was like 6 or 7 days. He took that time to flip it into like the fancy, nice, like, you know, slick basement office. And that's where we ended our shoot and shot the last, few days of the movie. But it was a lot of production design went into that.
That is amazing. I love new movie magic, especially the fact that you had to fool us that was actually a real basement.
Yeah. No, it was like, is this going to work? And then like when he actually got the steps up and we were able to get enough steps, like high enough. And then like, you know, they went to nowhere, right? So they just like fell off to nothing. And like, we had to make sure there was a platform big enough that they could hide up there. So like when they would leave, that you couldn't see their bodies, like, you know, hanging out in the stairwell. And it was like, there's just enough room to make it work.
But obviously because of the complex production of the basement office, which scenes you had to basically film first? You know, the nice office or the cruddy office?
Yeah, we went back and forth on like how to do that, like which was better. And since we had this, originally so the first plan was that we were going to have Ed, our actor, actually grow a beard for this. And then that just didn't work out. And so then we had to get a fake beard. So I think we thought that we would shoot the office that had more of the beard scenes first. So it would just be easier. And then that way we could work around it. But then eventually we were just like, there's no way with the budget we had, the time we had, there was no way we could like coordinate shooting all the scenes we needed with the beard and then, you know, shaving and then going back and shooting the other scenes, because we'd have to build the 2 sets twice. And it was just, that was not happening. So we ended up with a fake beard. But I think in the end, the reason why we did the grungy basement first was because it required a little less work than the alt basement did, because that had like the nice carpet, and it was just like needed a little bit more of a polish because it was supposed to look so nice. The other one was grungy and dirty. So like, we actually used the same cement floor that was just the cement floor of the carport for that one. And then like, he just like, was able to like keep some of the walls exposed. It was just a little easier to do. So since the way our schedule was, it just worked out to our advantage to do it that way.
Wow. I was going to ask about Ed's beard, whether that was actually real or fake.
Yeah.
It's always a challenge to tell like an actor saying, "Hey, grow this out." Especially, it was such a long beard that was
Yeah.
portrayed in the movie.
Right. Yeah, no, and we got this big beard, and we paid a little bit more to get like the more higher end one. And it was like the first day of production. There was no scenes with the beard that day, but after we shot out Ed's like alt Jake scenes that we were shooting, me and the makeup artist just like, she like fitted it, like clipped it, trimmed it, like kind of made it look good. And then like that was like the moment that we had to decide, like, okay, is this what we're going to go with for the rest of the movie? And it was like, okay, like in between shooting like a bunch of other scenes and going late and everything, like it was like a big decision to make. But yeah, I think it worked out. I'm really proud of the way the beard looks. And we did a little bit of visual effects touch-ups here and there. Just like there was a couple moments where you could sort of see a little bit of the tape, or like it didn't really like look like it was connected to his face as much, just like with the weird angles that we shot. But it ended up working in the end.
Tell us why Ed and Natalia were perfect for their roles in a film like this.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think everyone knows, like with an indie budget movie, like you don't have a lot of time, you don't have a lot of like money, you can't really pay your crew or your actors like what you wish you could pay them. And as far as prep time goes, like there's no budget for that whatsoever. So I had known Ed for a couple of years at that point, and he'd actually been the one that introduced me to Natalia originally. And so, they were supposed to both be in the teaser trailer that we did, but then Ed had to back out at their last second to do something else. And we got another wonderful actor to come in and do that role. But I had worked with Ed a couple of times, and we talked, and like just the way that he responded to the story when I told him about it, like I kind of knew that this guy, he got it, and like with his range of an actor, like he can do comedy, he can do drama, he could do a little bit of everything. I knew that he would have the right expressiveness to convey the character, because there's so much of this movie that doesn't have any dialogue. So you really needed somebody who had these eyes that you could like really draw you in, and like that he can say so much with just a look. And like I'd seen that in him. I can't remember if it was like in a play that he did or if it was like on a commercial that we worked on together, but there was something that we did where I saw his eyes communicating to me more than just what the dialogue was, or maybe there wasn't even any dialogue in that piece. And I was like, okay, this is the guy. Like he's got the eyes. Like that's so important for this. And then with Natalia, like when I worked with her on the teaser trailer, I was just blown away and like instantly knew that like she was going to be the one for this, just because she had like everything that we needed in order to get it done. Just like, the ability to like convey this, like, this kind of alluring version of this woman, but then also a woman who's kind of like had enough and like is sort of beaten down by a relationship, and to be able to do those two turns so well, like that's definitely something that is a hard ask for an actor. And when I talked to both of them, they were really excited about it, right? Like they really wanted the challenge. And I think like finding partners who really want to do something with you and want to put the extra time in and really care about the material, I think that was something that always also spoke to me about both of them. It was like, okay, like these are the guys I'm going to, take this journey with.
Was it a challenge to keep everything straight? Because obviously, they have to play, double characters, but, sometimes, you're filming not chronologically, and sometimes it can get confusing, but of course they're probably professionals and figured this out.
Yeah. but it was tricky, because especially the scenes with Ed, like, he's playing two versions of the same character, sometimes interacting with himself. And, at some point the beard's gone and it's just, him, with different clothes, and sometimes with the same, Jake wearing alt Jake's clothes or whatever. And so it was really important that, like, is that something that Jake would say, or is that something that alt Jake would say? And I think for the most part, like we were really aligned like together on like what that was. But you know, it definitely was a thing where we had to make sure that like the moment was right. Cause sometimes Ed would do something that would just like make me laugh and like just like be like so hilarious and so just like good for the moment. But then you're like, wait, but that's not a Jake moment. That's an all Jake moment. And so then you'd have to like tweak it to make it work, you know? But I think most of the time we were kind of spot on those.
How much usage of a body double did you have to require for a film like this?
Yeah, quite a bit. We originally thought about doing a deep fake kind of approach. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's like where you like take another actor's face and mask it onto someone else's face. And I'd seen like that had been done really successfully on some YouTube videos, and we tried it for us, and we couldn't get it to work right, because like you really have to find, like, you have to have enough images, and then you also have to have like an actor with a really similarly shaped face. So anyway, we ended up doing like kind of the classic body double sort of approach to something like this. And so like any scene where there's two Jakes, there's a body double involved, to act out the other parts. So like all the sneaking around scenes, like the scene in the hot tub, all the two fight scenes, like, yes, there was quite a bit of that.
So it all comes down to your cinematographer to make sure the angles are correct.
Right. Yeah. And Jason and I probably spent like 2 years talking about shots, over many months. And, we had like a huge list of like, what we were thinking about, like for feeling. And then we went through, and then we had like, a whole list of the individual shots that we had planned out before going into production. And then when we were in production, it was sort of like, okay, like this is what we had planned. Like, what can we do? Now that we don't have time to do 7 shots, like we only have time to do 2 shots or 1 shots, how can we, choreograph this in a way that like still achieves the goal and the vision that we originally had? And I think Jason and I really did a good job of figuring that out together.
So overall, how was your experience as making this your feature film debut?
Oh man. I mean, what do you mean as far as like shooting it, or
the
finished everything? Yeah, I would say it was definitely like a long journey. I mean, it'll be 8 years that I've been working on this in March. So it's like been a long time, to get to this point. And yeah, now that it's done and it's out and people have seen it and I've watched it with an audience, it feels incredible. I mean, there's no words to say like what the experience is really like. 'Cause, I mean, I'm also a videographer, or I was for many years, and I'm a filmmaker too. So like the Jake character is me in a lot of ways, or in there's a couple of things that are exactly taken from conversations I've had with my wife before, especially in the early part of the movie. So it's like putting yourself out in the world too. It's also like very vulnerable experience, but having it be well received, and seeing people relate to it like that, I think was really, that was just a few days ago, but that was really the moment where it felt like, okay, I picked a good movie. Like I made something that connects. Like it's not just, all in my head, and, it works.
That is great. Well, you made your movie premiere at Dances with Films. And I remember you mentioned in an email that it's going to be, being showcased at a lot more film festivals. Could you tell us where, some of the places that the audiences could hopefully check out in the future?
Yeah, totally. So I don't know when this is going to air, but it's playing at the Chicago Horror Film Festival, virtual only, this weekend, starting on September 17th. So like on Friday. And then it's also playing Atlanta Underground the same weekend, Arizona Underground live in person on Sunday, the 19th, at the screening room in Tucson. So if you live in Tucson, you should go see it in person. It's also playing the Oakland International Film Festival, I think also starting this weekend. That's going to be going for a week, online and virtual. We might have a physical screening for that. We're not sure yet. And then a little bit later on, and this is like just been announced today, on the 16th, we're playing at the Heartland International Film Festival in Indianapolis on October 10th. And that I think is online and in person, but only in person on the 10th. And I think there might be one more I can announce. but maybe not. I think that's all I can announce for right now. But there's a few more coming, which are really exciting.
That does sound exciting. Well, let me wrap it up with one more question. Obviously, there's a lot of sci-fi elements, and there's a movie that with a movie poster that's promoted by Jake throughout the
Right.
this film for the alternate. Is there actually a script for that? Are you planning to make that movie someday?
For Space Drive, yeah, there was a little outline, and we talked about doing a fake movie trailer for Space Drive that would play at the end of the movie. We just didn't have the time or the budget to do it, but yeah, I'd love to make Space Drive or a movie like Space Drive someday. And we come out with a whole plot of like what it was about, because the production designer wanted to know, and it's like, that Space Drive's like this interdimensional like portal that allows like space travel from one galaxy to another galaxy, and it's like people are trying to get this space drive so they can like control the outcome of the entire universe. It's really silly but fun.
You know what? Who knows? Maybe that'll be your $10 million movie.
Right, exactly, or 20 million.
That's right. Alrik, hey, thank you very much for speaking to us about for the alternate, and congratulations, and hopefully people will get to check it out in all the festivals in the future.
Awesome, thanks so much, Jake. I really appreciate it.
Hey, not a problem. Not a problem. Thank you very much. Next time.
All right, take care.